Okay, so there's these hot cubes and there's these cold cubes that they're talking about in this story. Tell me about these hot and cold cubes. What's the deal with these? Somebody I haven't heard from yet, a new voice. Yeah, John.
Say they wanted to get a specific type of flavor, they would.
To me, an inclusive classroom really means, a variety of different learning styles, a variety of different learning abilities, I guess. Students with IEPs in a general classroom with students not on IEPs, kind of trying to meet the same content standards.
This is kind of a way to help us remember positive and negative numbers and dealing with them, okay? So what we're going to do...
Kari is also in the classroom with us every day. So we, if we'll discuss in advance if Kari's going to work with a particular group of students that day, he may work with a group that has one of the IEP students in it. So the whole group will benefit, but he'll be really helping that one student in particular.
+4 plus -10 equals -6 to represent these actions and their overall results. Okay, I'm going to pause there in the story. So who can kind of combine and summarize everything that people said at the beginning when I asked what was the story about?
The range of students really varies in terms of how they perform academically. We have students, that are on grade level, students that are well below grade level, all in the same classroom. I have students who have specific learning disabilities, and then students who have speech and language IEPs, students who have behavioral and emotional, social issues. And they manifest themselves in a lot of different ways, from lack of, ability to concentrate. They're easily distracted. It could be difficult for them to engage in peer relationships. And then there's students who have a harder time processing information. As I'm planning my instruction, I really have to keep a lot of specific, issues in mind, such as the fact that some of my students are very easily distracted. Some of my students find it really difficult to focus on one task for a really long period of time. Some of my students, have a range of academic abilities. So can I engage them, through, a tactile activity as well as an oral, and, are they being asked to write and speak, and kind of engage them in as many different ways as I possibly can to help keep their focus.
Each group is going to get a bag of cubes, okay? I know that it is very tempting to want to play with them when you get them. Therefore, I'm going to give you a minute to just play with them before you start, because I know that once I'm asking you to use them for math, you're going to want to play with them, okay? So you can take a minute when I give them to you to play with them. That does not mean throw them across the room. That does not mean use them as any sort of weapon. That does not mean eat them, okay? So play around with them. And then after that minute, I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to do with them, okay? If at any point these end up being thrown, you will use your privilege to use them and you will leave the classroom, okay? These are a tool to help us better understand the math, okay? And shouldn't be misused. Clear?
I really try to incorporate a lot of behavioral interventions just for all of my students, not necessarily just my students on IEPs. On the individual level, as far as accommodations, there are, extended time, extended deadlines for individual students. And we have a whole class accountability system that is more of a behavioral kind of reward system that is based on whether or not the students are meeting the norms that they set up for themselves at the beginning of the year.
We're looking at our rubric. Everyone focusing on their work and their group, okay? Everyone working on the same thing at the same pace. That's really key. So facilitators, I'm looking to you to make sure, hey, is Alex going ahead? Alex, you need to stay with the group. Tiziana, your volume is too loud.
We established from the beginning of the year clear norms in the classroom, clear rituals, clear roles for students that help students really become clear about the expectations. So we put systems in place that allow students to do that, and I think that's huge.
I have a question, guys. Why do you think I came over here?
Because I was so loud.
Yeah, we was laughing.
So how were you guys not meeting the group norms?
We were being, off task.
Distracting. Yeah, it was distracting.
Okay, so how can we refocus on our roles that we're supposed to be playing? So it looks like Christina's job is to make sure that the group stays focused on goal.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks. Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, could you pause the time for a minute? Okay, I'm bringing you all back together because of two reasons. Can anyone tell me what they think they are? Yeah, Brian. Okay, the volume is getting too high. So according to our group norms, we should be speaking one at a time in quiet tones, okay? And I'm over here and I can fully hear Chris's conversation, the whole thing is saying. It's distracting me as I'm trying to work with this group.
I think it's very important to all teachers in inclusive classrooms and typical classrooms to be very clear in their instruction, to have both written and oral instructions, to break tasks down into smaller tasks, to allow students to engage with material with as many senses as possible.
So each of you guys, do it with the cubes. Make a cauldron with a temperature of 0. So take some, Chris. All right, each of you do your own.
I think today a lot of the strategies I used were a little bit more subtle. I think I tend to use a lot of proximity. So a lot of, if I notice that a group is beginning to be distracted or talking about non-math related content, by moving over to sit with that group, one just does a lot in itself, just by myself being closer to the group. I also try to use questioning a lot, as far as asking questions to refocus them on the math that they're doing. So coming over, asking, how can I help you? How can I help you get started on this problem? Which problem are you on? Questions that will kind of redirect them to the task that they're supposed to be working on.
Advice I would give to teachers managing an inclusive classroom is to really get to know the needs of each individual student and their learning style, and adopt the attitude yourself that a student's disability is their opportunity, and encourage them to adopt that attitude themselves. Don't go in with a deficit-based way of looking at it, because the students will pick up on that, and have picked up on that, and sometimes they internalize that. Because some of these special students really have some amazing skills that, the more typical student might not have. And it's a matter of tapping that richness.